the biggest entrepreneur platform on the planet. This is Business Rockstars.
This is Business Rockstars. I'm Mark Lack, and joining us is a special guest. We've got Patch Baker in the building. He's an investor and an entrepreneur. Pleasure to have you on the show, bro.
Good to be here, man.
So we were just talking before the camera started rolling. You've got like dozens of companies. So tell us, what are you focused on? What are you most excited about right now?
You know, it's really, I love building like businesses that reach people and like have massive impact. That's what I'm really passionate about. So I've got a couple of those. I've got a company that, American Dream U, that is really focused on helping veterans come out of the military and go into the civilian world. I've got some really cool projects with different, I've got everything from coffee to backpacks to, I've just kind of
showing me one of those.
Yeah, I'm just kind of all over the place. But I love this place in business because, one, you got great stories to tell. 2, you're fixing problems. And 3, it's building massive networks that you can leverage over and over and over again.
One of the things I love most about you and your story is that, unlike a lot of veterans, you went from being a veteran to now starting over, you're part of 27 companies, you said. Yeah. And what I really love too is that you're going back and helping the veteran community. But I want to rewind before the Patch Baker is sitting here with dozens of companies. Yeah. Take us back. What was it like being a veteran? How long did you serve? And then how the heck did you go from being a veteran to starting a business and where you are today?
Yeah, so I started out, I did 14 and a half years in the Marine Corps. And I became part of this world that, like, there was an answer for everything. Like, you knew exactly how you were going to get promoted. You knew exactly how to work a weapon system. You knew exactly how, like, there was books on the wall. There was people that went before you that could tell you. And, I kind of became accustomed to that, which meant that I immediately fell on my face when I got out of the military. And then you join the civilian world, and there's none of that stuff available to you.
There was no order and system.
Right. And, when I was in the military, like, I knew everything about my life. Like, what time I was going to get up, where I had to be, what I had to have with me when I got there, what I was going to do whenever they told me I was going to go.
Very checklist driven.
Like, I knew everything. And then you get out in the civilian world, and there's, like, none of that.
I love the term civilian world.
Yeah. Well, people used to tell me it's the real world.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, so deploy overseas, 14 and a half years.
Yeah.
Like that's
Definitely.
not the real world.
Yeah. So
it was just crazy to me because there wasn't like a technical manual on the wall that you could go to. There wasn't. It was just a completely different world for me.
And I feel like that's why most people's lives, if I make a broad general statement, is mediocre.
Yeah.
There's no playbook for how to have a great life. Or at least it's not taught, nationwide.
And the crazy thing about the military is it's not only is it like one of the best companies in the world at churning through people. Like, I want you to think about this for a second. They take 18-year-old to 21-year-old people and they turn them into warfighters that are responsible for a lot of stuff with a mission that cannot fail. And they're used to doing that every 4 years. Like, they worked out the systems and the processes.
Yeah.
So, like, my whole Brainiac
they have a hiring
moment.
machine.
Right. And my whole, like, Brainiac moment when I was like, wait a minute, this is exactly like the military. If I can just do this military.
Running a business?
Yeah, in the civilian world and run my own businesses, man, I could really kind of cycle through those, like, really quickly.
So you were, like, obsessed with the processes and the systems.
Yes. And not only building the processes and the systems, but building teams that were devoted to that.
Which is something that
got excited about.
Something you've done an amazing job of, because I've had the privilege to meet some of the epic people on your teams, and you've done a great job of learning how to surround yourself with great people on the team, and that's just like, roles in the military.
Yeah, and let me tell you, 99.9% of the money made in my companies don't have anything to do with me, right? It's the team that's really doing all the massive heavy lifting. My job is a show pony. My job is to show up and talk to guys like you and, be out on stage and do that kind of stuff. But
and you connect the dots.
The real work is, kind of done behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And you and I both have people in our lives that run massive amounts of responsibility for our companies because we kind of have to be out there in the spotlight. But that doesn't necessarily mean that I couldn't do it all by myself. Like, there's just no way.
And the problem is most people never achieve their full impact or income because they are trying to do it all themselves.
They're trying to do everything. Janitor, marketer, CEO,
accounting,
COO,
legal.
Accounting, yeah. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. So I kind of took the idea from the military. They have like PSD teams, like personal security detachments. And I really took that idea because I watched people like General Mattis that would sit in these battle update briefs. And he was like really, really smart. But one of the things that I watched him do was he never tried to be smart about everything. He tried to be really smart about the people that he surrounded himself with and the experts that he had. So if there was a comm question, he looked directly to the comm guy. And if there was a supply question, he looked directly to the supply guy. And I just watched him do that, and it made him like seemingly bulletproof. Like, he always had the answers. He always knew what to do. But he would take 30 seconds or a minute or 5 minutes or an hour or whatever it took to get all the information, and then he made a command decision. And I was like, got it. That's exactly how I can run a bunch of different companies.
Yeah.
And that's exactly how I can set up my teams to where I can orchestrate this whole thing, but I don't actually have to be in every single battle.
So I want to know, how did you go from that realization to then starting your first business, and why did you choose your first business to be a marketing agency?
Yeah, so we started Mobius Media Solutions, and the whole idea behind Mobius is, Mobius means endless, like a Mobius strip, right? So the whole idea was we could go endlessly in all directions. And I kind of look at like all of my companies and all the strategic partners that I have, I kind of look at it like a puzzle. And there's like really high-end puzzles that are, $100 for 10,000 pieces, and then there's, the cheap ones you can go to Walmart and get. They're all puzzles and they all make pictures. But if you go for a high-end picture, like all the pieces, like they fit together perfectly, and trying to use your individual businesses as assets and trying to put them together so they make this big mural, this big picture, and you can build it in all different directions. It's got no edges to it. So what Mobius allowed me to do, Mobius Media Solutions allowed me to do, was it allowed me to go out and find people, make impact in their life by building their marketing plan for Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Google, all those things. And we were able to build that so well and create so much impact in it. Then it started opening doors because I started getting lots of intros into much, much bigger people. And before long, I was able to wrap all those in. And we were doing such a good job that what we started doing was we started taking pieces of companies as
because you guys had a direct correlation to like growth. You guys would come in, the business would double or triple, and so you started to realize I could get equity in these companies.
Exactly, and that's exactly what we did. And over time, it just kept growing and growing and growing. And then what I did was I was really, really smart about getting rid of that lowest 20%.
What does that mean?
It just means like 20% of most people's clients, they cause like 80% of the headaches.
Oh, there's like the 80-20.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so I just kept getting rid of, I kept shunning off, kind of the dead weight, or the companies that it was just really hard to deal with them, or maybe the owner or somebody kept getting in the way, or they weren't giving you the content that you needed, or whatever. But what that did was it kept allowing me to grow really, really fast. And then we got to start being really selective about who we had as clients. And what that allowed me to do was the other 20% is being able to really go after the stuff that I wanted and land it. And then, it's kind of cruise control after that.
Yeah, so let's talk about what does it take to go from just basically getting started in business, because that's one of the things you've helped people do. I want to focus on that, and then I want to talk about the difference between scaling. So people are tuned in, they're at the beginning stages of their business. Maybe they're trying to, double their business, make their first $1 million. What are the things holding them back? Is it marketing? Is it sales? Is it accounting? Is it hiring? Where do they start?
I think it's all of that stuff, which is crazy.
They're like, oh, great.
Yeah, it's true. So what I've always, aspired to do was to get experts in all the fields where I was weak. But every time I hired somebody, part of what I was hiring them to do was to teach me. So like, I would go get an attorney, and I was like, hey, I don't want you to just go off in some deep, dark dungeon somewhere and do something and come back and say, here's the thing. I want you to teach me why you're making this contract like this, or why are you doing this LOI like this, or why are we doing it like this?
Yeah.
And then I did the same thing with the finance guy, and I did the same thing with the videographer, and I just kept trying to learn.
Yeah.
And I was paying those people to teach me all these things. Now, I don't believe that you have to know everything about everything, but you do have to have kind of a pulse.
Yeah.
Right?
You don't want to be blind on contracts.
Right.
When a legal guy is doing it wrong, or an attorney or a CPA, you want to know why he's doing it a certain way, why he's able to write certain things off or not.
Yeah. So you do have to have all those things, because I see people go into business and they go in so handicapped because they won't get experts to help them.
They think that they have to do it all themselves, or that they're weaker or less smart or less whatever if they have to hire somebody. And I think bringing in a coach or a consultant or an advisor or a mentor or whatever is definitely one of the fastest ways to grow.
Because they have been through most of those problems. They've seen that stuff over and over and over.
Yeah.
You and I have dealt with thousands and thousands of business owners. And there's certain things that you just see are normal, regular mistakes. And if you can help them past that, they can grow much faster. Now, on the other hand, they still have to do the work, because, and I make the equation between, like, if you have a teenage son or daughter, they have to make some mistakes. You can try as a parent to help them through, but at some point they have to make their own mistakes. And business owners are the same way. You and I can help them, but they have to actually do the work. They have to actually get out there and be putting those things to practice.
I would always rather learn from my own experience with someone else's roadmap to help me than to just learn on my own experience.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of business owners, they just only learn from their own experience, and then they make mistakes that they could have avoided. So.
And another thing that I think is a limiting belief, or makes people not actually take true action, like that massive action that we always talk about, is they try something once and they're not good at it, and then they just quit doing it. And, you know, you and I were on another conversation, and somebody was like, Mark is so good on camera, Patch is so good on camera. And I tried three takes and it just looks terrible. And
I'm not naturally good.
Thousands of hours of doing this stuff to get smooth and to be able to have articulate conversations, to be able to drive a point home and all that kind of stuff. And people just, they want it like right now to be perfect. And nothing that we've ever done in our life is like that. You can't, I mean, very few people just pick up a guitar and can play it today.
Yeah, most people are the status like 10-year overnight success.
Right.
Like you don't see the 10 years of practice, you just see the success, because the spotlight usually doesn't go on the loser.
That's right.
So when the loser's practicing, you never see that. The spotlight only goes on the winner. And so that's why people tend to think that, oh, if I'm not naturally good, I'm not instantly a winner. But I love a Tony Robbins quote. He says, what I practice in private, I'll be rewarded for in public.
That's right.
And so, you know, a lot of people are rewarded in public and people assume they must naturally be good, but it's 10 years. I mean, for you, how long has it been?
It's been 5 years for me, but I feel like I really did shorten the...
But you didn't just do it by just yourself. You did exactly what you just advised everyone listening does, which is surround yourself with people who are experts on the thing you're trying to do, or an aspect of it.
Yeah, and I want to make that clear too, is pay people. Like everybody's going out begging for a mentor. That's not what you need. You need a consultant. Like my grandpa was a mentor. He decided to bring me under his wing, right? But I paid consultants a lot of money. I mean, a lot of money.
What do you say to the person though who says, you know, I shouldn't have to pay for advice if somebody really has my best interest? Like, I see that maybe you don't pay for quote unquote your definition of mentorship, like a grandparent or something like that, but a consultant who can come in and instantly help you alleviate the stress, the problem, or help you solve this, you know, with the solution. You got to pay for that. And I think a lot of people that I talk to, maybe you experience the same thing. They're like, I shouldn't have to pay for that, or I don't want to pay for that. I'll figure it out myself.
I think they're rookies, and I think they will figure it out.
Yeah.
Like eventually, it'll
take a lot longer.
it's either this: you understand that you need it, you buy it now to fast forward your time, or you struggle, eventually figure out that you need it and you buy it.
Yeah.
So it is what it is. You can't. I mean, you can do it by yourself. There are guys that have done it by themselves, but they will all tell you. They will all tell you that once they got older, and their pride got a little bit lower and more tameable, then they went and got that guy, and they got to a certain level where they started surrounding themselves by guys.
Or if
that helped them fast forward.
If someone has the problem and they ask, can you help me solve this problem? They go, it took me 20 years to know how to solve that problem. I ain't gonna just help you figure it
That's
out.
right.
It's gonna cost you money because
Yeah.
it cost me millions to figure it out in 20 years of my life. And that's where it goes back to like, would you take your 20 years of experience and just give it to someone for free when you worked your butt off? Probably not. So let's transition. What does it take when you're getting into the scale mode? Because obviously a lot of people listening probably their goal is the first scenario to get to their first million or second million. But when someone wants to scale and they're doing tens of millions of dollars and have 27 different companies, in your situation, what is the scale? Like, what's the difference? In the beginning stages, we said, hire some great people to help you out. If your issue is money, you probably need to focus on your sales and your marketing and customer acquisition costs, which is why you had an agency. But scale, what is the difference between scaling? What does that look like?
Yeah, so there's another piece to that, just before we go on to that, would be, I believe that if you really truly make meaningful deposits into other people's lives, it's like a master key to success, right? Like it'll open doors for you and it will, pay you back dividends forever and ever and ever. That is one of the keys to scaling. Because if you can get that part down, then you can do like strategic partners, you can do other affiliates, you can share networks and audiences with other people, and that's where scale really happens, big time. If you have a brand new product or a brand new service, one of the fastest ways to scale is to jump on somebody else's train that already has a network, and then you basically partner with them to get more people over to your realm. Yeah. And scale, in my mind, really happens when you can start doing that across multiple different industries, and you can do it, at different dollar levels. Because the first one, you might run a product through somebody else's audience, and maybe you only make $10,000. But now you have a better marketing budget to do it the next time, and now you make $25,000, right? And then you just keep doing that over and over and over. And really trying to use every single asset that you have. One of the things that is kind of underused a lot is being able to use the same asset multiple times to do different things, and trying to figure out how to get all your stuff engaged into one, forward momentum. And that can be from different products, different companies, different, networks, but you can tie all those things together.
I want to go back a minute to the agency days when your primary focus was helping companies 10x their revenue.
Yeah.
And I know one of the big things companies struggle with is they don't really know their numbers.
Right.
Of what it costs to acquire a customer, and that's why their marketing is broken. So for people out there who want to know the secret formula, the Mobius, right, Patch Baker formula that's helping you go into any company and earn equity and triple businesses and 10x businesses, what the heck is that? What is this? What is the essence of helping a business grow so fast?
Yeah, so this is going to sound like a lame answer, but I'll follow it up and make it really cool. Math. Like simple math. People don't understand that you can't have a product, that costs you $18 and you sell it for $24 because you have no way to market, you have no way to ship, there's not enough room there. So you have to tell those stories, you have to build that, value proposition to really be able to move it for maybe the $52 mark. Now you got some room and you can afford customers, because we've heard it a million times. He who can pay the most for a client will win.
Yeah.
Right? And then you follow that up with other products and services. But I feel like a lot of new business owners are like one-trick ponies. They have one thing that they sell, and if that doesn't sell, they don't have anywhere to go. And if it does sell, they don't have anywhere to go. So one of the things that I learned by spending other people's money, right, as an agency, I got to learn by spending other people's money on marketing, and I got to learn at a pace that I never could have done on my own.
Because it wasn't with the money you had, it was the budgets of all the clients.
Exactly. Yeah. I was spending other people's money, and I was learning really, really quickly. And then I started realizing very quickly, and this seems so elementary, but people don't really understand what it means. When you are paying to get in front of a cold audience, that's your one shot. Like, it costs you a lot of money to do that. So that's your one shot, which means you have to have a really good story. You have to, which is again why I like impact-driven businesses, because you can tell a really good story. You can capture them on that hook, and then it's your responsibility to your business to keep selling more stuff to that person, create new things, invent new things.
Lifetime value of a customer.
Exactly, and get that as high as you possibly can. And when you do that, you can say, well, man, I have this audience over here that bought this thing, and I want to start this other company, but the avatar is exactly the same. Let me see if I can't use this first audience to sell something else. And that's what I did.
That's like cross-pollinating now.
Yeah, exactly, because that's what I did. I started out with military-related clients, all veterans, and they all had veteran-owned businesses, and I was like, man, if I can do this for this business owner, let's see if I can do it for myself. And I just kept doing that, and then soon I found out the rest is history. Yeah.
So let's talk about something else in the sense of business growth, and basically on the note of what you were just finishing with there is so many business owners and people in general are afraid, or they have some limiting belief around what failure means to them.
Yeah.
But I know that as a marketer, the number one skill set you have is your ability to test really quick.
Yeah.
So how can somebody make that distinction to stop worrying about failing and start looking at everything as a little micro test to be able to innovate faster?
Yeah, so I love this question because, if you go back to military tactics, which again, that's where all the core of this started for me. You could give any military, you could give them, a spot in the world to go take over, and they have ships and tanks and fast movers and infantry and all that kind of stuff that they can move on. But you have the same thing as a business. You just don't realize it. If you pretended that the marketplace was the battle space, and you have a way to combined arms attack every single piece of that market space, then instead of having all the fancy military stuff, you have like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Google, YouTube, all
different
those
assets.
Yeah, you have all these assets, right? Yeah. And you can attack the battle space like that to gain market share. Well, if you can do that, then if you're losing the battle, it's because your message isn't good enough, your price isn't right, you're not doing something there, and you have the responsibility to be able to do that. If you can do that effectively, what happens is you're able to scale that like way further than you ever thought. I'm a big thinker. I kind of pride myself on thinking really big.
Yeah.
But I meet some guys and they're like, I all of a sudden think I'm thinking small.
Yeah, it's all relative.
It's all relative.
Yeah.
It's perspective, right? So I don't know. What I tried to do the whole time was to figure out exactly how I was getting there, because a lot of people, I saw them get there once. They couldn't figure out how to do it again. So what they did was they did a course on what they did the first time, but they're not mimicking it over and over and over. And I was really cognizant of that. Because when I first started, I started getting these courses. And I was like, wait a minute, this doesn't work. And I started reading all these books, which this irritates a lot of people, but I started reading a lot of business books. They're like super outdated now. They were built, those books were written on companies that were started in the 80s that aren't here anymore. And I was like, wait a minute, this whole thing is broken. So I decided, if I just write down every single thing that I'm doing in every single business and try to figure out what is it that I'm actually doing to make these things successful.
Recognizing the pattern.
Finding the patterns and being able to say, okay, checklist this out, hand it to somebody else, see if they could do the same thing, come up with the same result. And when they did, I was like, uh-oh, I'm on it. Like, I have it. And
the recipe book.
That's it, and I've watched so many other people in different spaces, write different books, and it's so skewed because a regular person couldn't do what they did because they had something, they had some connection that everybody doesn't have.
Yeah.
Or they had some access to money that everybody doesn't have. Or they have some widget that accidentally one time got picked up by some celebrity that was like, man, I really love this, and their stuff blew up.
Or for 10 years, people have been trying to do the thing, and then they came in at the right time with the right funding.
Yeah, exactly. But you can't duplicate that over and over and over. And I was like, man, all these courses and all these so-called gurus, they just don't really understand what they did, and they can't do it again. So now they're going to sell a course on it.
Yeah.
And I was like, we got to come up with something better than that. So then I started trying to do that. I started trying to figure out like, what is it that really makes it win every single time? And then trying to do like the if this, then that type scenario.
Yeah.
You and I test a lot of content.
Yep.
And if this one doesn't work, try this, right? And that goes back to the testing that you were talking about.
Yeah, the people who win the most in this game, business, online marketing, advertising, they test more than everyone else, which
That's exactly
means
right.
they fail more than everyone else so that they can find the thing that worked better than everyone else.
Yeah, exactly. And as long as you're failing forward, you know.
What is that? What is your definition of that?
It's just like, as long as I can keep moving towards the goal line, right? You know, I kind of relate everything to football or the military. If I tried a running play and I only got a yard, I'm still a yard closer to the first down, right? And then I try, you know, a shuttle pass and I got 4 yards. Well, I'm still 4 yards forward, you know? It's not constantly getting crushed before you get off the line.
Yeah.
And most of that comes from best practices.
You only fail if you actually have completely given up. And I think most people
if you stop,
Yeah, like you said earlier, and you've said it a couple times, is like most people fail once and stop completely.
Yeah.
And they just give up their chance for success or the level of success they're truly capable of.
You know what's really funny is if people would work as hard to perfect or try to move forward as they do to come up with excuses while they're not going to like get an expert or you know get in front of the camera or whatever.
If they were as resourceful with finding solutions as they're as resourceful with finding excuses.
Some people, they just work harder to not do work. And I'm like, if you just do the work, you know, you at least have some data back so you can make an informed decision.
Yeah.
And pretty much everything in marketing these days it kind of starts out like science. And people don't want to make this correlation, but you have a hypothesis, right? That's based on some kind of knowledge. You have a hypothesis, an educated guess, and then you test it. Yeah. And if it works, great, you're forward. If it doesn't work, great, you know another way that you can't do it, so try something else based off your best guess at the time. And you know, hardly anybody wants to say that because in the marketing world, if you say, I don't know, man, I'm going to guess, people don't want to hire you, right? But it is. For everything that I've ever done for my own businesses, for other people's businesses, it's always an educated guess for a starting point. Then you start using data as it comes in to get better.
So let's go to our final question because there's people listening and they're like, this is amazing stuff. Maybe I don't even have a business yet.
Yeah.
As our final closing thing, I want to hear your advice. Is there ever a perfect time when someone can start a business, or is it just one of those things you just got to get started?
I think you have to get started because you're going to learn things whether you're failing or not. Just don't start with nothing. Like, don't start with $0 in the bank account because your mind is going to be stuck on finances and other things, and you're making business decisions out of necessity instead of what's legit for your business.
So keep the 9 to 5 unless you have some money saved away.
Yeah, and then you work the 5 to 3:30, which is your business.
After
that you're
9 to
building.
5, then you do 7 to 2 a.m. or whatever.
Exactly.
If you really want it.
Yeah, and you really need to have a little bit of money because you can't make something out of absolutely nothing.
You have to be extraordinarily resourceful, which only a few people we've ever seen like in history of business have been able to do that.
Yeah, but I mean, you have a better chance at going down and winning the lottery. Like play the lottery instead, right? And I always kind of laugh, and this is a tangent that I always go off on, that people say, well, I'm bootstrapping it. Well, people don't understand how that actually started. It was like 3 companies would get together and put in $1.5 million each to see if they could design a curved panel, right? LG and Sony and, you know, I don't know, somebody else would get involved. Well, that's still, you know, $4.5 million that they're bootstrapping because they don't want to take the full hit.
It's a definition, you know.
Exactly.
Billion-dollar companies consider that bootstrapping.
Exactly. But people are like, you know, I don't have a budget of $20 a week. Well, why are you trying to start a business?
Yeah.
Like you haven't done enough to get enough to be able to make this thing go.
Yeah.
And so what I really try to do for everybody that says, hey, I want to start a business, or, you know, I have a business that I'm trying to get it to the next level, what I've always tried to do is figure out one thing. Are they good at problem solving? Because I think that's the number one skill that you have to have. Problem solving is the number one skill you have to have in business. if you can problem solve your way through anything, whether that be sales, copy, marketing, product, it doesn't matter. If you can problem solve your way through what the market wants and what they require in order for you to be successful, you have a winner.
And I think that's the perfect note right there to finish on, is that lots of people are struggling to figure out how to solve their problems, to double, triple their impact, their income, or even 10x it.
Yeah.
And that's something that companies come to you, or you go to them and seek them out to help them explode the revenue in their business. If somebody is inspired by what you've said, they think that obviously they can learn a lot from somebody like you. Is there a place that you'd recommend they go, like a website or social media?
Yeah, tactical response marketing. Everybody's heard of direct response marketing.
Yeah.
Tactical response marketing is how do you react to all the direct response marketing efforts that you're doing. And tacticalresponsemarketing.com, there's tons and tons and tons of information for people, no matter if they're, like you said, starting off, they have a successful business trying to, 10x it or 100x it. There's, beginners to experts.
And they can find you on social media there as well?
Yeah, Patch Baker. You can just Google me anywhere. I'm all over the place.
Well, thanks for coming on the show, brother.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate
the
it, man.
inspiration. I'm Mark Lack, and this is Business Rockstars.